Hello and welcome to our flip video lesson, Sargon, a Mighty Ruler, lesson 3.12. Lesson 3.12, details. Human Odyssey reading pages 81 to 84, your student guide workbook pages 72 to 76, your OMS assignment, assessment 3.12, and about the topic, Sargon, the ruler of Akkad. So what are we learning about today? Our learning objectives. Recognize changes that occurred as a result of Sargon's rule. Recognize Sargon's achievements and failings as a empire builder. And analyze maps to assess the size and scope of Sargon's empire over the course of its development. Introduction. As Sumer civilization flourished for more than 1,000 years, civilization developed in other parts of the world. Over time, the people started trading ideas and skills spread. Sargon the Mighty and the Akkadians learned Sumerian ways and grew more powerful as Sumer declined. Eventually, Sargon brought all the Sumerian city-states under his rule. He built one of the first empires in the world by combining Akkad and Sumer, the northern and southern parts of Mesopotamia, and then conquering other lands. Fighting wars and conquering land proved to be easier in some ways than maintaining an empire. Student guide questions. So if you can go ahead and get your student guide book out, this book here, you can turn it to page 72. There's not a whole lot of space there to write these answers to these questions. So if you'd like to get another piece of paper and staple it to your student guide, you can, or you can just try and write you can try and write small and fit it in there. Questions number 1 and 2. Who was Sargon of Akkad and what was his major strength? So he was an Akkadian who rose to power and became king. He was an excellent strategist, meaning he could figure things out, he could determine things, he could set a plan, and he could follow through with it. Question number 3. Sargon's achievements and failings as an empire builder. So his achievements were that he conquered Sumer and built one of the first empires. He was a good general and a wise ruler. He appointed governors to help control conquered lands. And I just want to make one note here, meaning he was a good general, meaning he was wise and he was able to, again, follow through with the plan. He wasn't necessarily a good general in that he was kind to his soldiers or his followers. He was a good general in that he was able to control and lead. He appointed governors to help control conquered lands. And then his failings, he conquered more than could be controlled and ruled without meeting the needs of the people. So again, that's kind of where that falling into a good general was. He was a good general in that he was able to conquer things and follow through with the plan, but he was not a good general in that he didn't take care of the needs of his people. Question number 4. What important changes occurred as a result of Sargon's rule? So if you take a look at that map over there on the right-hand side, while I'm reading these, you can kind of envision this development from city-state to empire, the use of the army, a capital city, governors, the spread of civilization beyond Mesopotamia, failure to mix with conquered peoples, use of Akkadian language in government, and the Akkadian adoption of cuneiform. So all of these changes occurred as a result of Sargon's rule. Some were very good and some were not so good. So we're going to go back to your student guide and we're going to turn, or I should say we're going to say on your student guide, and now turn to page 74. This is a focus on geography. So if we take a look at the first question, was the Empire of Akkad part of Mesopotamia, or was Mesopotamia part of the Empire of Akkad? And you can go ahead and use your Human Odyssey book as well, your reading book. And if you turn to page 84, it's this same map that I have on this page. It's just, you can kind of see it maybe a little closer. Okay, so if that's easier for you, please go ahead and do that. So Mesopotamia was part of the Empire of Akkad because the empire encompassed the land between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers, but it also extended beyond that region. So if we take a look here on the map, between the Tigris and the Euphrates rivers is right here. So that Fertile Crescent area, but it also extended beyond that. Okay, so it extended beyond both north, south, west, and a little bit east. Okay. Why might Sargon have wanted to control the land of Sumer? So lying between the Tigris and Euphrates rivers, Sumer had good fertile farmland. Merchants and farmers could also use the rivers to transport their goods, and Sumer was close to the Persian Gulf. So there was a lot of ability for trade, for farming, for travel, and in these days, travel was not leisure, travel was for some purpose. Okay, so those are reasons why Sargon might have wanted to control this land of Sumer. All right, next one here. About how far was it from the Akkadian Empire's westernmost extent to the southernmost of Sumer? And again, this is that same map. I just kind of blew it up a little bit on this page. You can go ahead and look at it a little closer here in your book, and you'll be able to take a closer look, and you can see the scale. Let me go back here one slide. If you look at the top part here, you've got your scale here. You can go ahead and use that as you're answering these questions. So it was about 900 miles. Okay, and again, you can do that on your own. During this flip video, you can take a little piece of paper and you can measure it and you can figure that out. What Sumerian city-states did Sargon conquer? Babylon, Agad, Nippur, Umma, Larsa, So all of these areas he conquered. Okay, and then the map on page 84 shows the empire of Akkad during what time period? So this was around mid-2300s, 2360 to 2230 BC, before Christ, or BCE, before Common Era. Remember, it goes backwards because as we're going on a timeline, the earliest time is here and is moving towards current day here. So it's going this way, so it's moving backwards. And remember, BC is anything before 0 basically on a timeline. So it's moving towards that 0. Okay, and this is an optional on your own activity. So if you turn to page 75 in your student guide, you'll see pages on empire building, and you can build your own empire, which is super cool and super fun. So many rulers have wanted to build empires that span the globe. Why? Perhaps they wanted power, wealth, or fame. Perhaps they had other reasons. Sargon the Mighty built one of the world's first empires, but like those who followed, he found that conquering lands was often easier than governing them. So again, remember, he conquered all of these lands, but he found it hard to be able to control them and govern them. And so you can go ahead and create your own empire. Before you do that, I wanted to kind of go over, this is actually question number 6 on those pages. So we're kind of skipping to the very last question, but advantages of an empire and disadvantages of an empire. So advantages were it created stable societies, spread cultural achievements, it brought economic prosperity, meaning businesses, money, growth, may bring wealth to rulers. Disadvantages of an empire can be cruel and oppressive. Oppressive means a ruler just comes over and just kind of controls everything you're doing, kind of like a dictatorship. May exploit people for economic gains, may disregard culture of conquered people. It is difficult to govern vast territories, and there may be revolts, meaning as you're conquering all these different territories, these people are losing their culture, and people may revolt. So this is a check your understanding. So if you decide to do this optional activity on page 75, you can go ahead and check your answers here. And you can always pause the video as needed. So important vocabulary to understand: geographic, based on or derived from the physical features of an area; unite, come or bring together for a common purpose or action; empire, an extensive group of states or countries under a single supreme authority, formally, especially an emperor or empress or king; analyze and assess, examine, review, and determine. So these are good vocabulary words that you will need to know when you go to take your assessment. And here we come to our quote section. Dictators are rulers who always look good until the last 10 minutes. Just a reminder, your Human Odyssey reading pages 81 to 84. Please make sure you do have those complete. And thank you for joining me today. As always, stay positive, stay fighting, stay brave, stay ambitious, stay focused, and stay strong. Have a great day.